Thank you, Dr. Snyder. I am honored and very grateful for the opportunity to represent the class today before our families and distinguished guests and the faculty and staff, so thank you. I lost my faith in politics during a presidential election when I was 8 years old. During the campaign, I was on fire with enthusiasm and hope, but in the aftermath, I realized that the empty promises of human politics could never hope to solve all our problems. Suddenly, I discovered that the world and all its human institutions were fraught with failure and bound to disappoint us. Most of us can relate a similar experience in our youth, of feeling the bitter bite of disappointment and cynicism in our hearts, of realizing that our hopes have been let down. One would think with such a start, we could only reach the depths of cynicism about any place or any person or group as we became familiar with them, that maturity and adulthood and a broader range of experience would only bring us closer and closer to the slippery slope of sarcasm and cynicism, ending in nihilism. For many young adults, the final jading stamp of cynicism seals over their hearts during their formative years in college. But coming to maturity here, in Christendom's community, did not kill the last optimistic reaches of our youth. Even as we experienced the growing pains of freshman year and became aware of the imperfections of our community, nothing here told us to lose our hope or our faith. That was because being here, for every sobering insight we received, reinforced 1,000-fold that there is in every imperfect created thing a deep and beautiful value, a goodness rooted in something outside of the merely human reaches of our immediate experience. Every blessed morning, stained by exhaustion, last-minute homework, and the race of our busy schedules, came to us all the same as a gift, surrounded as we were by a community that showed us again and again that life was inherently miraculous and that truth, which is goodness and beauty, exists. That no matter how individuals or groups fall short, God in his mercy could guide and reconcile the imperfections of our lives. That showed us how to live and what to live for, both by word, in our intellectual labors, and the cultural heritage of the wisdom we received in the classroom, and by example, in the ideals we shared and sought as a community in our lives together these last 4 years. Blessed John Henry Newman wrote that students' authentic education is furthered just as much and perhaps more by living in community as it is by sitting in a classroom. I think all of us can agree that our living here has supplemented our learning, that we've learned by experience together many of the truths we knew intellectually. For instance, we were taught in Theology 101 that Christian perfection consists in charity. Now, after having lived in a dorm for 4 years, let alone our experiences crowding with our fellow Christians in St. Peter's Square during our Rome semester, we could all agree with G.K. Chesterton that the Bible tells us to love our neighbors and also to love our enemies, probably because they are generally the same people. Dante told us that for Christians confident in God's plan of redemption, in his will is our peace. We've felt this truth during these years of discernment as we've seen new life and death together. We've faced unexpected challenges and blessings, and yet we're all the while supported by a community that held on to that confident trust in God, no matter what came our way. We were told that we are sons and daughters of God, and in difficult times, we knelt as a community before the Sacred Heart window in the chapel and knew his intimate love for us as his children. John Paul II wrote that the only appropriate response to the human person is love. And together in the last 4 years, we've come to witness that love alone indeed does justice to the personhood of others. In other words, simply the experience of living here and being in this community reinforced for us the reality that we all, despite temptations to cynicism at human failure, know to be true, that life is beautiful. We are made for happiness, and that happiness is attainable. Our time here at Christendom together exposed cynicism for what it is at root, a spiritual poison, and drove home with unutterable certainty the antidote that, in the words of G.K. Chesterton, the world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder. I have never faced a day here without seeing reflected in my fellow classmates and in our experiences an unshaken confidence in the power of wonder and a joy at the education we've received together. A professor once told me that we never realize how much we owe to our parents until we leave the home and begin families of our own. I think in the same way, we may not realize just how much our alma mater has given us until we leave Christendom behind. The challenging and nurturing atmosphere, the strengthening of our characters, and the forming of our hearts and minds in our time here has perhaps been too big for us to see, so to speak, while we are now up close to it. But when we leave and begin our lives as adult Catholics in an ungodly world, we will realize that our time here has been, in effect, a sort of Tabor experience, which we will carry with us as a source of strength. Christ took 3 of his apostles with him up to Mount Tabor as witnesses to his transfiguration, specifically to strengthen and prepare them for the trials and the mission that lay ahead for them. Those of us graduating today have been blessed with a Tabor of our own. But beginning today, we're coming down from the mountain and hold our experiences here in our hearts as spiritual nourishment for the journey ahead. Christ said that much will be expected of those to whom much has been given. As we leave Christendom and begin to realize, perhaps for the first time, how much we have really received in coming here, the question remains for us: what will we do with what we have been given? What is God expecting of us now? Thank you, Christendom, and farewell.